Can you guys see my breath right now? It's cold outside. It is, I think, 50 degrees, which for us Floridians, that's freaking cold. It is nice and crisp. I've got a full garden tour ahead of me. It's my first video of 2024, so let's make it a good one. My in-ground garden rows. We've got carrots, cabbage, cauliflower, broccoli, sunflowers, onions, and beets. Our in-ground garden rows have been absolutely fantastic, super low maintenance, and you would think that these would be more high maintenance because they're right in the ground with weeding, but it's one of those things that you have to do a big maintenance project on it, I would say once a year, to make sure that it's not going to be overrun with weeds, and do very little maintenance in between. We do a deep mulching method, which really suffocates the weeds very, very efficiently. I absolutely love this method, and everything that has been growing in here has grown more healthy and quicker than anything in my raised beds. I'm here at my scarlet nettle carrots. I know they're ready to harvest because I can literally see them popping out of the soil. I pretty much only harvest, oh my gosh, look how beautiful and perfect. I harvest carrots as needed. I would say like our whole growing season is a little bit more flexible. We're not susceptible to frost like you would be up north. So if we need a fresh carrot, I'll just come out to the garden and just start, you know, taking as many as we need for that recipe. These are my carrots. This is what I'm most excited about in the entire garden is my cauliflower. Not just the like snowball variety, which I am growing that too. I'm also growing different broccolis, and I'm also growing a Romanesco variety, which is really spiky and really cool looking. I don't have any to show you right now, but I will give you an update on what those look like. I do, however, have some stunningly purple varieties that are ready to harvest right now. It already looks like it's starting to get a little sporadic and inconsistent, so it's definitely ready to harvest. If you have a lot of cauliflower that you're harvesting at one time, because unfortunately it's not like carrots where you can kind of leave it in there and have more flexibility and forgiveness, then a great thing to do would be to blanch them, freeze them in the size florets that you prefer. Or you can rice them, which would be putting them in a blender so that they're like a rice type texture, and freeze them that way. Throw them in so many different things. I actually used to, when I was like really into keto, do excellent fried, like cauliflower fried rice, which I know I don't really do that kind of stuff anymore. But if you are into keto, that's a really good option. It does taste good. I did miss this due to the holidays. I just wasn't out here as often. And when they start to form their cauliflower or broccoli heads, because they're all pretty similar in that way, you want to harvest them. There's a small window of letting them continue to grow, and then also being weary of them going to seed. So if you have a lot of hot temperatures on the horizon, then I would really start to eye your cauliflower and broccoli. And there's a trick where you can actually pull the leaves over the heads and pinch the top of the leaves where they kind of create shade from the sun, so that they can be prevented from going to seed that much quicker. So just keep that in mind if you're in like a hotter climate. If you're in a cooler climate, you probably won't have this issue as easily, but here in Florida, you really need to keep an eye on them as they're starting to get bigger and looking like they're kind of like a formed individual head of cauliflower. This is still definitely fine and edible. We can use this just like we would with any typical cauliflower, because it hasn't quite gone far enough where it would like start to turn into a flower. So I'm going to cook this up just the same as I would. We have some Romanesco varieties, as I said before, of cauliflower, a snowball variety, and we also have some broccoli back there. Those are definitely nowhere near ready to be harvested. I would hope that they're going to be ready to be harvested by the end of January, because that's typically when I like to do the whole garden reset, clearing out the rows, doing a huge refresher of compost and mulch. So of course I'm not going to just pull anything out that, you know, and waste time, but I would hope that they're going to be ready before February. Behind the cauliflower we have some red acre cabbage that's growing. It's looking really promising. We're starting to see some heads forming. The cabbage does take a little bit longer to grow. Really look forward to attempting to make sauerkraut, fermenting that. I've been really into like the whole world of fermentation since getting more obsessed with the world of sourdough, and I'm thinking if fermenting bread is this great, then let's ferment other things. So that's what my plan is with this cabbage, because I mean cabbage does last a long time in your refrigerator, but I also want to make the best of just this massive amount that we have, and we do have some more at other parts of the garden. Right here we have our Savoy cabbage, which will be here for the long haul because they've just started to take off. They're looking pretty small right now, and they're going to be really big, like much larger than the red acre cabbage. That's just a really big variety, and it's really interesting and kind of like crinkled looking all over it. So right now I'm just gonna know that we're probably gonna see this into the spring garden. I've had some pretty decent success with beets this season. One of my big goals for the spring garden is to do better at growing beets. I don't know why I haven't been very good at growing beets. It's not been awful. I do have a good amount of beets growing still, and we have some that are definitely ready to harvest. I have actually harvested a few of these and enjoyed them already, and they are like just absolutely wonderful. It tastes like candy. I feel like people either really love beets or they don't. And I don't know why people wouldn't like beets. I know some people think that they just like taste like dirt, but I don't necessarily think so. I think they're really sweet, especially when you roast them and then cool them down, put them as a garnish on top of like salads, anything like that. Wonderful. I also have some onions growing as well. I forgot the variety. I just truthfully put like a ton of onion seeds out, and I'm just seeing what happens. I don't really know a lot about growing onions, that's something I have to conquer in 2024, is understanding growing onions more, which I know sounds silly, but you know, we've all got to start somewhere. We all got to start learning and figuring things out somewhere. So that's going to be something I focus on more, is figuring out the best season and the best varieties for my particular climate. Not a crazy amount going on in this particular bed, which I'll do like a full shot, but we do have a few tomato plants that are growing, which I think is really interesting because it is January. I would love to keep these tomato plants going. We do have some actual tomatoes on the bottom here, and it would be awesome to have these lasting through the beginning of spring. That way we have some tomatoes just right away while my other plants start to grow. So we have a cherry variety. This was, I believe, a mushroom basket variety. Some of these were just self-seeded ones that just came back from the spring garden. So I'm not entirely sure what all of these are. So I just kind of let things go. I can typically tell by the formation of the actual leaves. These are kind of what they call like a potato leaf. So it's typically going to be like a bigger variety, and I just know this is a cherry tomato because of where I pulled it from. I'm here at my kale bed. We've got a few different varieties. We have a dinosaur variety, a curly leaf variety. I don't even know all the varieties that we have. Some of them my mom gave to me, some of them are like part of a mix, but regardless, every single variety has a home in our garden. I love how they last for us in our particular zone at least one full year to if not 2 years sometimes, just because of how warm our climate is. This plant really holds up to high heat, and it also holds up to really cold temperatures. So to me, growing kale is one of the most ideal crops, especially in the Florida climate. They attract bugs such as aphids. They are a great bait crop for any type of pest. If you're going to incorporate any type of nutrient dense, low maintenance crop in your garden, and you have a really small garden, definitely put kale on your list because it's going to be so easy to maintain, and there's nothing like harvesting some fresh kale and immediately using that in your meals This is my square foot garden. I've got some carrots, some cilantro, and broccoli in here. I don't even remember all of the varieties of broccoli. I think it's just one variety in here, but I want to show you just how absolutely massive these plants are. They are just like over 2 feet tall, huge and robust. There's no signs of broccoli heads yet, but that is telling me that we're going to have some more sizable heads of broccoli coming out of these particular plants. I'm walking under our naked cattle panel trellises. I don't know if you can see, they're all, you know, nothing's going on there, which is okay. Most of the things that would be kind of like trellising up the cattle panel trellises are kind of warmer season crops. I've got really big plans for the cattle panel trellises going into the spring. I wanted to show you, would you know, another bed of cauliflower and broccoli. What happens is these varieties will start to turn in on themselves. They'll start to roll over the leaves, kind of creating like a bowl on the top to protect that head of cauliflower. Because if they're exposed to beating down direct sun, it's going to make that plant go to seed much quicker. So that's why I was saying before, if your leaves are not rolling over the head of the broccoli or the cauliflower, you can pinch them over with something and start to kind of protect the actual head of cauliflower or broccoli. So we've got 3 beds full of broccoli and cauliflower. This one's full, that one's full, and the one behind me is totally loaded. Going into the spring season, I'm really hoping that these are gonna be done in the next month, because I do need space in here for spring, and we start to do our garden reset by the end of January. I'm really hoping that these will be ready to harvest by then, and we can start putting these in the freezer and doing a lot of different fun stuff with them. But as you can see, they do take up a lot of space. I'm gonna need this space going into spring because I have a lot of really big plans for these particular beds. But regardless, it's super exciting to see all of this growing at one time. I've got a bed of what I think I remember to be a shooting variety of broccoli. So there are some varieties that are shooting, which you can do a few more harvests off of them. And then there are there's the typical variety, which is like a one and done type harvest. Right next to that is our little papaya trees. And the reason why I wanted to show the papaya trees is because in the spring, these things are gonna be much, much bigger. They grow crazy fast, especially in our climate. And right now, this plant is about 3 feet tall. So we'll see how big it is coming in just the next few months. I've got my scarlet kale right here, which I've always wanted to grow. And finally, I have some scarlet kale growing. I don't know why I've never had an issue with growing kale, but for some reason, the scarlet kale was a little bit trickier for me. Going into 2024, I have a lot of new goals. I want to feel refreshed and refresh the entire homestead plan. Last year was our biggest garden yet, and I feel like every year we're probably going to be saying that, but it truly was the most that we've ever felt like that we're truly kind of like homesteading. It was a huge undertaking, especially with having a little baby. This year, I know what I don't want to do, because last year, although we had a ton of crops and things to enjoy and things to bring in and process and make so much tomato sauce and things like that, it was complicated because it wasn't very organized. This year I'm going to focus on a more organized garden. I'm going to take you guys along with me as I figure out that plan and talk about seeds and things like that. So if you want to see more, definitely hit the subscribe button and give it a like, because that really helps me. It goes a long way. Thank you guys so much for watching. Again, my name is Shelby, and until next time, bye.